North Georgia is home to the beautiful and ancient southern Appalachians, some of which exceed 4,000 feet. On this episode, we'll explore the natural and recreational opportunities of high elevations. Next on Georgia Outdoors.
Funding for Georgia Outdoors has been made possible by a grant from Mary Hall Singleton and by the Imlay Foundation.
The Appalachian Mountains form a majestic range, looking over 14 states from Georgia to Maine, and spanning well over 2,000 miles. After hundreds of millions of years of erosion, they're not known for their height, but some do exceed 4,000 feet, and Georgia is home to 30 in that category. Most of them are found in the Blue Ridge region of the state. Climates at these altitudes are very different from those just 1,000 feet below. A rule of thumb states that for every 1,000 feet you climb, the temperature drops 3 degrees Fahrenheit. This means fall comes sooner and spring later. It also means snow. Even when there are no flurries in neighboring towns, areas of high elevation can be covered in snow and ice. On this episode, we'll explore the natural and recreational opportunities offered in these very special climates. A few 100 million years ago, the Appalachians were created during a time of great change on Earth.
The geology of this whole area from Atlanta on south to Alabama and north all the way to Maine is all kind of part of one big mountain system, the Appalachian Mountains. It's really the result of several collisions between fragments of continents. They collided, they made a huge mountain range. This area would have been very active, similar to the Himalayas, lots of earthquakes, very high mountains. That was 300 million years ago. So over time, since that activity ceased, the area has just eroded away. And what was very high mountains is worn down to almost nothing. And so that's why the Appalachians today are much less prominent than the Himalayas or the mountains in the western United States, where there's been recent activity also.
But there is still activity going on here, even if we can't see it right away.
The Appalachians, of course, are still eroding today, and the fragments from the Appalachians that are eroding are being carried down the streams to the beaches of the Atlantic and of the Gulf of Mexico. So some from down the Chattahoochee to the Gulf and down the Savannah River and so on to the beaches around Savannah.
Looking down from above 4,000 feet in Georgia is a truly unique experience. Inside the Chattahoochee National Forest is the Brasstown Wilderness Area, home to Georgia's highest peak, Brasstown Bald. Visitors can drive almost all the way to the top of the 4,784-foot peak. A half-mile trail takes you up among the clouds to the observation deck at the summit. Views up here are some of the best Georgia has to offer. Most people come to the top of Brasstown Bald by way of car, but some choose to make the journey more challenging, much more challenging.
Ride smart and have fun.
The Brasstown Bald Century Buster is an annual 100-mile bike ride that starts in Helen and ends on top of Brasstown itself. The event is for amateurs who want to get a feel of what the pros do as they traverse some of the same terrain as the Tour de Georgia.
We've always wanted to do a ride where it finished on top of Brasstown, and with the Tour de Georgia that first year, it just gave us the motivation. We decided we wanted a very safe environment where the average rec rider that doesn't race could do this event and kind of relate to what Lance and some of the pros do. After 97 miles in their legs, what it'd be like to climb Brasstown.
Not all of the ride is so steep. Most of the time, cyclists enjoy riding together and viewing the beautiful mountain scenery along the way.
Beautiful day, great ride, big mountains, great people. Looking forward to going up the big climbs. It's just the freedom and then the friends and the speed. The speed's great, the downhills are great. You keep in shape, you're outside, can it be better? Air's clean.
It's been great so far. The SAG stations have been awesome. You know, the road and the course is good. Weather's awesome, so really can't ask for a better day for it.
This is my first time. Some guy happened to mention to me, and I decided I've been riding 1 year. I've done 5 centuries so far.
One of the highlights is Mount Yonah, a 3,166-foot peak between Cleveland and Helen.
It's a lovely ride. I mean, it's so beautiful. People are very friendly. It's very well organized. The markings are out there. We get food and stuff to drink. It's fabulous. It really is. It's a great challenge. It's tough, but you know, you just got to be steady and persistent. And you get a great sense of achievement at the end if you make it.
The previous record time for completing the Brasstown Century was just over 6 hours. But today, Rome, Georgia's Stephen LaPointe beat that by more than 30 minutes.
When you're climbing that thing, a lot of people have to get off their bike. I'm going about 3.5, 4.5 miles an hour in the smallest gear I have and struggling to do it. So it's all about just, you know, keeping your head down and trying to generate enough power so you don't fall over. I'll probably be back next year. You kind of have to now.
When the sun sets over Georgia, Brasstown Bald offers another unique view. Stargazers and their telescopes migrate to the top for a front-row experience of our universe. Tonight, the Atlanta Astronomy Club is here, taking advantage of Brasstown's high summit parking lot.
The Atlanta Astronomy Club is a group of astronomers, whether they be professional or just amateurs like me, from all different backgrounds that get together several times a month to share astronomy with the public and also with each other. We meet near a new moon because although a lot of people observe the moon, it gets in the way of a lot of what we want to see.
The weather conditions here usually get us above the haze and a lot of the atmospheric disturbances. And it's a lot cooler, so you don't have as much necessarily moisture in the air. You know, the less layer of air you got over your head, the better to see the stars with. And I haven't been up here in a while, and I was looking forward to come up here to the view. It's going to be a good night. So when you look at Jupiter now, instead of being a white blob with dark bands on it, you'll see kind of a whitish fawn-colored planet.
Although the gadgets are neat, all you really need is a night sky and a good sense of wonder.
People get into stargazing for as many different reasons as there are stargazers. I think a lot of people are interested in science and seeing the sky. There are others that are drawn, you know, the spiritual idea, you know, being in the universe, and I can see all this stuff out here.
Look at the bands around it.
Brasstown's a great place to observe from in Georgia.
Others like being able to come out and get away from the city and, you know, have a tranquil experience. It's a great hobby. Lots of people that like to come out and be under the stars.
Also in the Chattahoochee National Forest sits the lesser-known Rabun Bald. At 4,696 feet, it's the second highest mountain in Georgia and is also home to a section of the Bartram Trail. Named after famed naturalist William Bartram, the trail follows his exact footsteps from when he explored the area in the late 1700s. Rabun Bald's rich and ancient forest is best experienced by hiking the 2.2-mile section of the Bartram Trail to the top.
The hike to Rabun Bald is a very pretty one. You start out down in some northern hardwood forest with a lot of beech and maple, and eventually you start getting into more and more rhododendron as you climb up. It's a bit of a hike. Somebody who's in good shape, it'll take probably about an hour to get to the top, and it's uphill the whole way. So you definitely feel your legs coming up. They're a great place where, after spending several hours climbing up to the top of the mountain, suddenly you come out on this beautiful vista and you can look around and see where you are in the landscape and see all the great mountains. And for that reason, they've attracted people for a long time.
Raven Bald is also home to the first fire tower in the area. Constructed by Nick Nicholson, the first forest ranger in Georgia, the tower affords spectacular views. On clear days, hikers can see for more than 100 miles. The conditions in high elevations can be extreme. Strong winds and cold temperatures combined with exposed rock make for a specially adapted habitat here. It's called a heath bald.
As you come up to the top of the mountain, the shrubs get thicker and thicker and a little bit lower, and there are a few trees up there, but very few, and many of them are really wind blasted and stunted.
Much of the mountain is similar to what Bartram saw when he traversed its slopes. However, a major part of Raven Bald has been disappearing over the past 100 years, the bald itself. Balds are defined as rocky or grassy outcrops on the tops of some mountains. No one knows how they formed or what kept them open for so long.
Well, you can see a pretty good example of the succession that's happening on these balds. In the foreground is really a grassy bald. It's made up of things like Pennsylvania sedge and little blue stem and a lot of other herbaceous plants. And then just behind that is really a heath bald. And in that heath bald you can see plants like rhododendron and mountain laurel and one of the native honeysuckles and witch hazel. But where that heath bald is right now, just a few years ago, used to be grassy bald. And so you can see that these woody plants are sort of marching inward and taking over the balds, and we're gradually losing them. And nobody really understands why. It's a real big mystery of conservation in the southern Appalachians.
To illustrate how forests are taking over the balds, Nathan will be taking 3 core samples from 3 different scarlet oaks, starting from the top of the mountain and moving down. Coring the trees will help determine their age and how the population is moving.
What we're documenting is the fact that the trees have come on to this bald and covered it up with forest. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize, just how dynamic the southern Appalachians are. And so here you can see the core of this scarlet oak, and you can see it's very old. Just by the looks of it, I'd say it's probably about 80 years old. You can actually see the individual rings in there, and once we count them up, we can hold them up side by side and compare them, and you can pretty quickly recognize the fact that the forest is marching upward onto that bald and taking it over.
By counting the number of rings in each core, we can determine their age. Just as Nathan thought, the younger trees are on the top, marching onto the bald.
A trip into the North Georgia mountains can be a lot of fun. However, there are a number of things to consider before you hit the trail. Know your route and tell someone exactly where you'll be in case you get lost or run into bad weather. Weather at high elevations can change quickly. Even if it's sunny and warm in neighboring towns, it may be cold or rainy or even snowy at the top of the mountain, so be prepared. Pack a rain jacket and warm clothing. Use supportive footwear to prevent injury, and bring a first aid kit in case something does happen. For more information about areas you might be visiting, visit these websites.
Raven Bald is one of the very few areas in Georgia where visitors might be lucky enough to sight the elusive raven. Common in northern areas of the continent, ravens are known to be an extremely smart bird. Often mistaken for crows, the much larger hawk-like raven is a master at aerial acrobatics and displays a variety of calls. This is typical behavior during courtship between a male and a female. The ravens have perhaps the best view of Georgia above 4,000 feet. But soaring at those heights isn't just for the birds anymore. Lookout Mountain is only about 2,400 feet tall, but it's the #1 hang gliding takeoff point in Georgia. Here, anyone can fly with the birds over 4,000 feet in the air.
When you fly with birds, they're not afraid of you because you don't have the engine, and they just think you're a big bird. And they fly pretty much the same speed as we fly when they're just wings out, soaring around. And the great thing is when you get in this thermal with them and you just fly up with them, and they'll look you right in the eye, and there's kind of this feeling like, yeah, we're doing it, you know, and it's really neat.
Hang gliding at Lookout Mountain offers tandem flights with a certified pilot, so no experience is necessary.
It's just a matter of relaxing and have a good time. It doesn't take any special skills, doesn't take any special strength. Hang gliding gives you a great perspective to look down in Georgia and see the beauty of Georgia from a different perspective. On a day that's clear, you can easily see the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's just wonderful to be up there. If you go to 4,000 feet, you can look down on the waterfalls. Really fantastic bird's eye view. And man has dreamed of doing that, you know, for centuries. The fact that we can do that now and we never could before, I think everyone should try to take advantage of it.
At approximately 4,460 feet, Blood Mountain is the 6th highest peak in Georgia, but the tallest along the Appalachian Trail. Blood Mountain has a legend attached. Stories are told of a battle between native tribes that was so gruesome the mountain streams ran red with blood. Today, Blood Mountain welcomes visitors for a more peaceful challenge. The smaller Appalachians aren't known for mountain climbing like the steep western Rockies, but boulders up here attract adventurers for another climbing thrill. Stephen Sloan is active in bouldering around North Georgia. Today, he's helping Christy Groom, a beginner from the Atlanta area.
Bouldering is a form of climbing where you're climbing on lower rocks that don't require a rope. So what you do is you use a crash pad. It's a freer mode of climbing where you don't have the hassle of doing the ropes and gear and all that. And you can just really just get out and just explore what you can do. The crash pad is a dual layer of foam. The purpose is to protect you when you fall. You can put it over a rock or if it's real uneven so you don't break your ankle, and then it cushions your landing some.
I've learned that the equipment I need is the crash pad because as a beginner you fall a lot and you have to be okay with that, and the crash pad that we have here is very stable on this uneven land, and when I did fall, it didn't hurt at all, and I was fine with it. I can't do it. You also need chalk for your hands because your hands get sweaty and it needs that grip.
There's a notch right here where you can put your heel.
It helped to have Stephen here to show me what to do and that it's okay to fall and it's okay not to get to the top the first time. And that was encouraging, and I want to keep going.
Bouldering requires strength, patience, and determination. The focus of climbers is to solve what they call problems.
A problem is a route for bouldering. It's a sequence of moves. I guess the word problem comes from you having to work it out. You can either top out or you can do a traverse. Traverse is you're going from left to right. You'll go all the way around the boulder if it's freestanding, or you can go from one big hold to another big hold as the problem. Then topping out is you just go up and you get on top of it.
There are as many reasons to boulder as there are problems in the boulder itself.
I think it's great just to be outdoors and challenge yourself and problem solve. And so it's a way to use your mind and be outside and exercise and experience something new.
Getting to the top of Blood Mountain and its boulders can be fulfilling, but it may take a wander through a very special cove on Blood's north slope to get a better understanding of life in the area. Coves are recessed areas surrounded by mountains. Due to its position on the shady north side of Blood Mountain, Sosebee Cove gets very little sun, providing a moist and densely populated forest. We met with Tim Homan, author of the Hiking Trails of North Georgia, as well as other helpful nature guides.
Sosebee Cove is 175 acres. It's 3,200 feet. This is a very diverse area. It's a high north-facing cove that's easily accessible by highway. You can just drop down the cove. Right here, you could identify more trees species just in this cove here than all of Yellowstone's 2.2 million acres.
Tim guided us through Sosebee Cove's lush forest, praised as a botanist's paradise. As an avid hiker, Tim has grown fond of southern Appalachian flowers.
I like to come here because of the botanical richness. This is chickweed right here. And this flower, its 5 petals looks like 10 because they're so deeply cleft. This hood is called a spathe. One thing that's going on with the jack-in-the-pulpit is that many of the insects that go down this spathe can't come out. So scientists think it's evolving into a carnivorous plant. There's all kinds of stuff around here. This is the Solomon seal. These greenish blooms hang pendant below the arch of the stem. So this is the Solomon seal, the true Solomon seal. And it received its name because the round scars on its roots were said to resemble the waxy seal of Solomon. This is a large flowered trillium. These large flowered trilliums start off with white blossoms, and their white blossoms turn pink or reddish pink with age.
Like most of the forests in the area, Sosebee Cove was logged over 100 years ago. However, this yellow poplar was left. Tim couldn't wait to measure the giant.
When you measure a tree, you're supposed to measure it at DBH, which is diameter at breast height. It's 4.5 feet up. And if it has a high side and a low side, like this one does, you're supposed to measure it from the high side. Okay, 16 feet, 6.5. It's a pretty good sized tree.
It's gems like Sosebee Cove and Blood Mountain that inspire Tim to write guidebooks like the Hiking Trails of North Georgia, so that others could enjoy the beauty of the southern Appalachians.
What I wanted to do is to give people good directions to the trails and let them know what they were going to be seeing and about how difficult it was and how long it was. And then they can make up their mind whether they want to hike that or not. If people go slowly and look at things and take their time, chances are they can walk a lot further than they think they can.
Hiking is a great way to be active and to enjoy your surroundings. The 7,800-acre Blood Mountain Wilderness attracts hikers for many reasons. Today, the pink lady slipper is in bloom, and the even more rare yellow lady slipper. These hikers were fortunate enough to have their cameras ready for some unique shots. Some visitors come for the view. Others come to see relics of its human history, like the rock shelter on top, built in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. But many do it just for the hike itself.
Blood Mountain is on the Appalachian Trail, and it's really, I think, one of the first tastes that one would get on the Appalachian Trail of the high elevations. It's a pretty good climb getting up on top of Blood Mountain, but it's well worth it. It has a great view to the south.
The best vista off Blood Mountain is from the top, and the only way to get there is to hike it. Whether it's a destination or just a stop on a longer trek, Blood Mountain is the most popular section of the Appalachian Trail in Georgia. Even on cloudy days, groups like this hiking club come up to experience its majesty. The Old Friends Hiking Club goes out every Tuesday, exploring a different spot in Georgia each week.
It's really just a group of individuals that enjoy nature and the northeast Georgia mountains and enjoy getting out and hiking each week in the fresh air.
Hiking clubs are a good excuse to get out and a great way to meet new people.
We moved up about 5 years ago. We liked the outdoors, wanted to meet more people, see the area better. Haven't stopped since. That was last fall.
I got involved with the club because I moved to Toccoa to marry David, my husband, and it was real important to him that I hike. Matter of fact, he asked me to marry him while on a hike.
It exposes you to a lot of things that you would never even realize is here until you get out walking in the woods.
There are countless ways to enjoy the special high elevation climates in Georgia. Whether you're hiking, climbing, gazing, or soaring, being above 4,000 feet offers a grand perspective of our world.
Funding for Georgia Outdoors has been made possible by a grant from Mary Hall Singleton and by the Imlay Foundation.